Welcome to another reading of the book Animal Farm by George Orwell. We have already done 5 episodes, one for each chapter in the book, and now we are going to go to chapter number 6. So, a quick summary of what has happened so far. Um, the manor farm uh, that was owned by humans was taken over by the animals basically, and now they are calling it Animal Farm, and they have been running it. The humans tried to take it back from them, but then there was a sort of a mini fight or a skirmish that happened, and the animals successfully rebuffed the attack by the humans. So now the animals are fully in control of the farm, and it so happened that the pigs that are on the farm are now the policy makers, and even among the pigs there was a rift between two of the pigs. Uh, One that was trying to create policy, and the other one that was trying to play politics to take credit for all those policies, basically. Right? Snowball and Napoleon. So Snowball has successfully been driven away from the farm, never to be seen again. Now Napoleon is fully in charge. The Sunday morning get together in order to discuss policy, all those things was changed completely, and the feedback mechanism that was available for the animals uh, to provide feedback on the policy, etc., everything has been removed. So, from what initially started out to be a semblance of uh, the animals having a say in how the farm is run, they have come to a point now where the animals don't have any say, and it is entirely Napoleon and his minions that are running the show in the farm. So we've been joined in the panel by Swarup Garu. Swarup Garu, hello sir. Welcome to the panel.
అందరికీ నమస్కారం అండి.
Namaskaram. So we'll definitely get going on the reading, and then from time to time we'll take inputs from the panel members as well as the audience, sir. So I just quickly summarize the first 5 chapters. Now we are going to go to the chapter number 6. So chapter 6, Animal Farm by George Orwell. Okay, more people coming in here into the panel. Sikshadin Garu has also come. Sikshadin Garu, namaste sir.
నమస్తే విశ్వ సార్, నమస్తే స్వరూప్ గారు సార్.
నమస్కారం అండి. ఇక్కడ ఆంగ్లమా తెలుగా అండి?
ఆంగ్లమే సార్. To the at least while the reading is going on, after that the discussion we can do in our native. Yeah, I tried to get a copy of this in Telugu, but I could not find it. It's there. It's just that I couldn't find it. So we're sticking to English.
అయ్యో, ఆర్వెల్ స్టైల్ కి తెలుగు సూట్ అవ్వదండి. అంటే
I know George Orwell. There are too many nativisms and puns to ignore.
అచ్చ ఆంగ్లంలోని మాధుర్యాన్ని కోల్పోతాం.
Correct, absolutely. So what Swarup Garu is saying is there's a lot of sweetness when when the punches are given to the other side in English, basically. So we'll do it in English. So Sikshadin Garu, do you want to read, or I can get started and then hand it over in the middle? However you want to do it.
Sir, yes.
I can start, sir.
Yeah, okay, sir. You please start and I'll...
Yep. Yeah, and also surprisingly, Swarup Garu, there are other people from cultures that are completely different from ours that have started following this channel after this reading started in English.
Then we'll continue it in English.
Yeah.
For the sake of your viewers, sir.
Wider audience. Yeah, exactly. All right, sir. So chapter 6. Sir, Shravan sir also joined. Shravan Garu.
Namaskaram, Swarup Garu, Sikshade.
Sir, namaskaram, sir. Shravan sir.
I hope namaskaram is something everyone understands.
Yeah, namaskaram. Yeah, please explain, sir. Swarup Garu.
Ayyo. So I thought it's known. So namaskaram is a salutation expressed by people of India. It essentially means that you respect the essence of the universal being within you.
Yeah. So basically, you will see Indians joining two hands and saying namaskaram, right? That is how most common salutation
Which,
in
the entire world has learnt during COVID. That is the best form of greeting. Forcibly.
right. No falling on top of each other. Yeah, absolutely. Social distancing is inherent in the salutation from India. Okay. So chapter 6, one more time. All right. All the year, the animals worked like slaves, but they were happy in their work. They grudged no effort or sacrifice, well aware that everything that they did was for the benefit of themselves and those of their kind who could come after them and not for a pack of idle, thieving human beings. Okay, so at least that's what the animals were trusting so far, basically. Throughout the spring and summer, they worked a 60-hour week, and in August, Napoleon announced that there would be work on Sunday afternoons as well. This work was strictly voluntary, but any animal who absented himself from it would have his rations reduced by half. So that is how voluntary it was, right? It was voluntary, but if you didn't show up, your rations would be cut. So it's essentially not voluntary. Even so, it was found necessary to leave certain tasks undone. The harvest was a little less successful than in the previous year, and two fields which should have been sown with roots in the early summer were not sown because the ploughing had not been completed early enough. It was possible to foresee that the coming winter would be a hard one because the harvest was a little bit less than last year and there were certain tasks that were not completed on time to take advantage of the season. The windmill presented unexpected difficulties. There was a good quarry of limestone on the farm, and plenty of sand and cement had been found in one of the outhouses, so that all the materials for the building were at hand. But the problem that the animals could not at first solve was how to break up the stone into pieces of suitable size. There seemed to be no way of doing this except with picks and crowbars, which no animal could use because no animal could stand on its hind legs. Only after weeks of vain effort did the right idea occur to somebody, namely, to utilize the force of gravity. To occur to somebody, namely, utilize the force of gravity. So instead of using crowbars and other implements, they decided that they were going to use gravity, or maybe take them up and throw them down, or something like that to break them. Only after weeks, okay. Huge boulders, far too big to be used as they were lying all over the bed of the quarry. The animals lashed ropes around these. Then, altogether, cows, horses, sheep, any animal that could lay hold of the rope, even the pigs sometimes joined in at critical moments. They dragged them with desperate slowness up the slope to the top of the quarry, where they were toppled over the edge to shatter to pieces below. Transporting the stone when it was once broken was comparatively simple. The horses carried it off in cartloads. The sheep dragged single blocks. Even Muriel and Benjamin yoked themselves into an old governess cart and did their share, so carrying the smaller rocks. By late summer, a sufficient store of stone had been accumulated, and then the building began under the superintendence of the pigs. So the pigs were supervising the building of the windmill. So, SK garu, namaskaram. Okay. But it was a slow, laborious process. Frequently, it took a whole day of exhausting effort to drag a single boulder to the top of the quarry. And sometimes, when it was pushed over the edge, it failed to break. Nothing could have been achieved without Boxer. Boxer is the workhorse, the big horse, whose strength seemed equal to that of all the rest of the animals put together. When the boulder began to slip and the animals cried out in despair at finding themselves dragged down the hill, it was always Boxer who strained himself against the rope and brought the boulder to a stop. To see him toiling up the slope inch by inch, his breath coming fast, the tips of his hooves clawing at the ground, and his grey sides matted with sweat, filled everyone with admiration. So everybody was admiring the hard work that was being put in by Boxer. Clover warned him sometimes to be careful not to overstrain himself. But Boxer would never listen to her. His two slogans, I will work harder, and the second one, Napoleon is always right, seemed to him a sufficient answer to all problems. He had made arrangements with the cockerel to call him 3/4 of an hour earlier. So instead of half an hour, now it has become 3/4 of an hour. Earlier in the mornings instead of half an hour. So working harder. And in his spare moments, of which there were not many nowadays, he would go alone to the quarry, collect a load of broken stone, and drag it down the side of the windmill unassisted. Okay, so working harder. The animals were not badly off throughout that summer, in spite of the hardness of their work. If they had no more food than they had in the Joneses' day, at least they did not have less. So they were at least getting what they were getting previously under the previous management, under Jones. The advantage of only having to feed themselves and not having to support 5 extravagant human beings as well was so great that it would have taken a lot of failures to outweigh it. So, in order to become worse than the previous regime, it would have had to be really, really bad. It would have had to have been very bad, basically, right? And in many ways, the animal method of doing things was more efficient and saved labor. Such jobs as weeding, for instance, could be done with a thoroughness impossible to human beings. And again, since no animal now stole, it was unnecessary to fence off pasture from arable land, which saved a lot of labor on the upkeep of hedges and gates, right? So basically, because there was no
Sir,
stealing, yes, sir,
so what they are trying to say here is there is no need of fence for their
correct.
land. Is it what they are saying, sir?
That's exactly right. So there was no need to keep hedges or any of those things to separate the arable land from the regular land or gates or anything like that, because the animals were in charge and there was nobody stealing now, basically, right?
Okay, okay, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can we? I don't understand why the other gave this reference. Is it? Can we draw parallel to the internal security of a nation?
Oh, you mean the gates and hedges?
Police. Yeah.
Yeah, probably, right? But
Since there is
yeah,
no crime involved.
correct. Or at least
Yeah.
on paper, right?
Yeah, on paper. Yeah.
Yeah, officially, the same animals are taking care of running the farm instead of human beings, right?
Right, sir.
So because
Right, sir.
it is their own kind, the theory is the animals did not feel a need to steal because they were getting enough anyway, and there was no overhead of these
Oh,
5 human beings
right,
not doing
right, sir.
anything
Got
and
it.
stealing everything. Yeah,
So everybody was getting their own share, and oh yeah, got it, sir.
yeah,
The
and they were happy
basic,
with yeah.
got it, sir.
Yeah.
Please
So
continue,
Omkaram
sir.
Garu Namaskaram. Yeah. So, nevertheless, so that's what happened. So now things are no worse off than what they were under the previous regime. Nevertheless, as the summer wore on, various unforeseen shortages began to make themselves felt. There was need of paraffin oil, nails, string, dog biscuits, and iron for the horses' shoes, none of which could be produced on the farm. Later, there would also be need for seeds and artificial manures, besides various tools, and finally, the machinery for the windmill. How these were to be procured, no one was able to imagine. Okay, so somebody had to go and establish relationships outside the farm in order to get these things into the farm. so that those things can be put to work, basically, right? Because there were needs for things that were not produced on the farm. One Sunday morning, when the animals assembled to receive their orders, Napoleon announced that he had decided upon a new policy. From now onwards, Animal Farm would engage in trade with the neighboring farms. Not, of course, for any commercial purpose, but simply in order to obtain certain materials which were urgently necessary. The needs of the windmill must override everything else, he said. He was therefore making arrangements to sell a stack of hay and part of the current year's wheat crop. And later on, if more money were needed, it would have to be made up by the sale of eggs, for which there was always a market in Willingdon. The hens, said Napoleon, should welcome this sacrifice as their own special contribution towards the building of the windmill. Once again, the animals were conscious of a vague uneasiness. So when they said this, when they initially drove away Jones, they said that the eggs would be kept by the hens because that is how they produce the next generation of hens and things like that. But slowly now, Napoleon is talking of selling the eggs basically and some of the farm produce. Never to have any dealings with human beings, never to engage in trade, never to make use of money. Had not these been among the earliest resolutions passed at that first triumphant meeting after Jones was expelled? So if you remember the policy, they wanted to make sure they don't interact with any human beings. But now Napoleon is slowly moving away from that policy, and animals were aware of it. There was some uneasiness there. All the animals remembered passing such resolutions, or at least they thought they had remembered it, that they remembered it. The four young pigs who had protested when Napoleon abolished the meetings raised their voices timidly, but they were promptly silenced by a tremendous growling from the dogs. Then, as usual, the sheep broke into 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, and the momentary awkwardness was smoothed over. Finally, so the propaganda machine and the dogs made sure that there was no protest or there was no counter voice, basically. But
Rebellion.
no rebellion is extreme. Here the
Oh,
voice also
sorry,
is
sir.
no, it's okay.
Okay,
So
sir.
even the voices cannot be raised. That's the idea here.
Right, sir.
చిన్నప్పుడు ఎప్పుడో చదివినట్టు లక్ష్మి గారు ఎస్ దిస్ ఇస్ అ వెరీ ఓల్డ్ text from the 1940s. There would be no need for any. Okay. So finally, Napoleon raised his trotter for silence and announced that he had already made all the arrangements. There would be no need for any of the animals to come into contact with human beings, which would clearly be most undesirable. He intended to take the whole burden upon his own shoulders. So now it became a burden, right? Interacting with human beings. So Napoleon is fulfilling his role as the leader by taking upon the burden all by himself. Mr. Whymper, a solicitor living in Willingdon, had agreed to act as an intermediary between the animal farm and the outside world and would visit the farm every Monday morning to receive his instructions. Napoleon ended his speech with his usual cry of, "Long live Animal Farm," and after the singing of Beasts of England, the animals were dismissed, basically. So they were going to interact with the outside world through this guy, Mr. Whymper. So,
Yeah, sir.
yeah, go ahead, sir.
No, sir. Do you want me to continue or will you
Yeah,
continue,
please
sir?
go ahead, sir. Please go ahead, please go ahead.
Before that, if you want to say anything about the previous paragraph.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you are essentially seeing is that slowly and slowly the animals are moving into a state where they are violating their own policies, right? But that
Yeah,
is being portrayed as something different, saying that it's a burden, I'll take care of it. Um, we still don't have human beings, so it's better automatically, those kinds of statements. But
yes, sir.
nevertheless, the unease is being slowly felt by the animals. That's it, sir.
Right, sir.
I don't know if Swarup Garu or Lar Garu wants to say anything.
if he had read the entire chapter, it would have made more sense. And very simple words. This is where we see the transition. So whatever was promoted as part of the revolutionary ideology gradually starts evolving. So they'll reinterpret the original idea or ideology to suit their own needs. And we also see them leveraging propaganda to the fullest. Maybe we'll discuss this at the end of the chapter, Vishwaji.
Yes,
Yeah,
sure, sir.
absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
All right, sir. So after the cry of Napoleon, his "Long live animal farm" slogan, and after the singing of "Beasts of England," uh, there came Squealer. Afterwards, Squealer made a round of the farm and set the animals' minds at rest. He assured them that the resolution against engaging in trade and using money had never been passed or even suggested. It was pure imagination, probably traceable in the beginning to lies circulated by Snowball. A few animals still felt faintly doubtful, but Squealer asked them shrewdly, "Are you certain that this is not something that you have dreamed, comrades? Have you any record of such a resolution? Is it written down anywhere?" And since it was certainly true that nothing of the kind existed in writing, the animals were satisfied that they had been mistaken. So Squealer cleverly uh, misguided all the other animals. Every Monday, Mr. Whymper visited the farm as had been arranged. He was a sly-looking little man with side whiskers, a solicitor, a solicitor in a very small way of business, but sharp enough to have realized earlier earlier than anyone else that Animal Farm would need a broker and that the commissions would be worth having. The animals watched his coming and going with a kind of dread and avoided him as much as possible. Nevertheless, the sight of Napoleon on all fours delivering orders to Whymper, who stood on two legs, roused their pride and partly reconciled them to the new arrangement. Their relations with the human race were now not quite the same as they had been before. The human beings did not hate Animal Farm any less now, now that it was prospering. Indeed, they hated it more than ever. Every human being held it as an article of faith that the farm would go bankrupt sooner or later, and above all, that the windmill would be a failure. They would meet in the public houses and prove to one another by means of diagrams that the windmill was bound to fall down, or that if it did stand up, then that it would never work. And yet, against their will, they had developed a certain respect for the efficiency with which the animals were managing their own affairs. One symptom of this was that they had begun to call Animal Farm by its proper name and ceased to pretend that it was called the Manor Farm. They had also dropped their championship of Jones who had given up hope of getting his farm back and gone to live in another part of the country. Except through Whimper, there was as yet no contact between Animal Farm and the outside world, but there was constant rumors that Napoleon was about to enter into a definite business agreement either with Mr. Pilkington of Foxwood or Mr. Frederick of Pinchfield, but never it was noticed with both simultaneously. It was about this time that the pigs suddenly moved into the farmhouse and took up their residence there. Again, the animals seemed to remember that a resolution against this had been passed in the early days, and again Squealer was able to convince them that this was not the case. It was absolutely necessary, he said, that the pigs, who were the brains of the farm, should have a quiet place to work in. It was also more suited to the dignity of the leader, for of late he had taken to speaking of Napoleon under the, under the title of leader.
Sir,
To live,
one quick
sir,
thing.
yeah, sir,
Black Tiger came, and as well as Dawji is also
that
has
was,
joined
yeah,
the panel.
yeah,
Hello,
sorry,
sir.
sir. Right.
Welcome. No
Hello
problem.
everyone.
Sorry, guys.
Yep.
Hello, hello. I didn't notice.
No problem.
Apologies. Dawji, namaskar. Black Tiger garu, namaskaram.
Hello sir.
Okay, sir.
Please,
Namaskar.
sir. Namaskar.
Namaskaram.
Hey, it's
Please
good.
continue.
It's good you didn't notice. It's mean you were reading very. What we say?
With a lot of passion.
Yeah, I am
Yeah,
observing all the changes, all the changes going on in annual form. How
yeah,
the people are being, how the people are being misguided and all. Right, sir.
yes.
I'll
All right, sir.
continue. Yeah. So, uh, so the squealer was saying it was also more suited to the dignity of the leader to live in a house than in a mere sty. Nevertheless, some of the animals were disturbed when they heard that the pigs not only took their meals in the kitchen and used the drawing room as a recreation room, but also slept in the beds. Boxer passed it off as usual with Napoleon is always right. But Clover, who thought she remembered a definite ruling against beds, went to the end of the barn and tried to puzzle out the 7 commandments which were inscribed there. Finding herself unable to read more than individual letters, she fetched Muriel. Muriel, she said, read me the 4th commandment. Does it not say something about never sleeping in the bed? With some difficulty, Muriel spelt it out. It says, no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets, she announced finally. Curiously enough, Clover had not remembered that the 4th commandment mentioned sheets, but as it was there on the wall, it must have done so. And Squealer, who happened to be passing at this moment, attended by 2 or 3 dogs, was able to put the whole matter in its proper perspective. You have heard then, comrades, he said, that we, pigs, now sleep in the beds of the farmhouse. And why not? You did not suppose, surely, that there was ever a ruling against beds? A bed merely means a place to sleep in. A pile of straw in a stall is a bed, properly regarded. The rule was against sheets, which are a human invention. We have removed the sheets from the farmhouse beds, and sleep between blankets. And very comfortable beds they are too, but not more comfortable than we need. I can tell you, comrades, with all the brain work we have to do nowadays, you would not rob us of our repose, would you, comrades? You would not have us too tired to carry out our duties. Surely none of you wishes to see Jones back, right? Said the squealer. The animals reassured him on this point immediately, and no more was said about the pigs sleeping in the farmhouse beds. And when, some days afterwards, it was announced that from now on the pigs would get up an hour later in the mornings than the other animals. No complaint was made about that either. By the autumn, the animals were tired but happy. They had had a hard year, and after the sale of a part of the hay and corn, the stores of food for the winter were none too plentiful, but the windmill compensated for everything. It was almost half built now. After the harvest, after the harvest, there was a stretch of clear, dry weather, and the animals toiled harder than ever, thinking it thinking it well worth while to plod to and fro all day with blocks of stones, if by doing so they could raise the walls another foot. Boxer would even come out at nights and work for an hour or two on his own by the light of the harvest moon. In their spare moments, the animals would walk round and round the half-finished mill, admiring the strength and perpendicularity of its walls and marveling that they should ever have been able to build anything so imposing. Only old Benjamin refused to grow enthusiastic about the windmill, though, as usual, he would utter nothing beyond the cryptic remark that donkeys live a long time. November came, with raging southwest winds. Building had to stop because it was now too wet to mix the cement. Finally, there came a night when the gale was so violent that the farm buildings rocked on their foundations and several tiles were blown off the roof of the barn. The hens woke up squawking with terror because they had all dreamed simultaneously of hearing a gun go off in the distance. In the morning, the animals came out of their stalls to find that the flagstaff had been blown down and an elm tree at the foot of the orchard had been plucked up like a radish. In the morning, the animals came out of their stalls to find that the flagstaff had been blown down and an elm tree at the foot of the orchard had been plucked up like a radish. They had just noticed this when a cry of despair broke from every animal's throat. A terrible sight had met their eyes. The windmill was in ruins. With one accord, they dashed down to the spot. Napoleon, who seldom moved out of a walk, raced ahead of them all. Yes, there it lay, the fruit of all their struggles, levelled to its foundations. The stones they had broken and carried so laboriously scattered all around. Unable at first to speak, they stood gazing mournfully at the litter of fallen stone. Napoleon paced to and fro in silence. occasionally snuffing at the ground. His tail had grown rigid and twitched sharply from side to side, a sign in him of intense mental activity. Suddenly he halted as though his mind were made up. Comrades, he said quietly, do you know who is responsible for this? Do you know the enemy who has come in the night and overthrown our windmill? Snowball, he suddenly roared in a voice of thunder. Snowball had done this thing in sheer malignity, thinking to set back our plans and avenge himself for his ignominious expulsion. This traitor has crept here under cover of night and destroyed our work of nearly a year. Comrades, here and now I pronounce the death sentence upon Snowball, animal hero, second class, and half a bushel of apples to any animal who brings him to justice, a full bushel to anyone who captures him alive. So that was the announcement made by Napoleon. The animals were shocked beyond measure to learn that even Snowball could be guilty of such an action. There was a cry of indignation, and everyone began thinking out ways of catching Snowball if he should ever come back. Almost immediately, the footprints of a pig were discovered in the grass at a little distance from the knoll. They could only be traced for a few yards, but appeared to lead to a hole in the hedge. Napoleon snuffed deeply at them and pronounced them to be snowballs. He gave it as his opinion that Snowball had probably come from the direction of Foxwood Farm. No more delays, comrades, cried Napoleon when the footprints had been examined. There is work to be done. This very morning we begin rebuilding the windmill, and we will build all through the winter, rain or shine. We will teach this miserable traitor that he cannot undo our work so easily. Remember, comrades, there must be no alteration in our plans. They shall be carried out to the day. Forward, comrades! Long live the windmill! Long live the animal farm! So that's the end of the chapter 6.
All right.
Lol,
This
so
is a
lol.
very poignant story, ever relevant even today.
Lovely.
Exactly.
Whenever there is a change of governance, uh, you see certain reflections of the story in the media. So you see certain articles getting priority or prevalence. Uh, there is no more harsh criticism towards the erstwhile predecessors, whereas a lot of praise being showered on the new governance, new government or the new rulers. And you would also see them gradually rescinding or taking back their stance or rewording some of the things which they have promised as part of their manifesto. Uh, so skepticism and pessimism are always welcome, especially when it comes to political affairs. I'll rest my
Hmm.
case and I'll leave it for others to comment.
Yeah, absolutely. No, sir. We'll continue the conversation. This is the best part of the reading. Daji, please go ahead.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, this chapter, now I give my student to write summary or whatever they think about this book, or especially this chapter. Chapter 6 is the most intriguing and real, I would say.
Yeah.
Like we
Sir,
can say,
Daji,
the whole
sir,
book is real.
Davji, just one second. Let me introduce you properly to the panel, right? One more time.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh, Sir, Davji is actually he's studying his B.Ed and he's currently a social studies teacher in Madhya Pradesh.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah.
his favorite book is
Yes, sir.
Animal Farm. One of his favorite books.
Yeah. Nice to meet you,
Yeah.
sir.
One of my favorite.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank
Glad
you.
to know you, sir.
yeah.
Mm,
So,
Glad
sir,
to know you
please go
too.
ahead, sir. Please go ahead with your
Yeah.
analysis.
No, this Orwell's book Animal Farm, na, is just not like compilation story of profound political commentary. Even chapter 6 like highlights how power exploits the masses, you know, like reshaping laws, principle to like कैसे वो I don't know, how they use the law to serve their own interest. You know, one of the most striking element of this chapter is how Napoleon threatens his like tightens his grip on the farm, turning his rule into an outright dictatorship. And we can see this in our real world also. He just not increases the workload for animal. Like he's uh, subtly rewrites the original commandment to justify like pig's privilege. He gets the bad man. Who like which animal gets the bad man? Why he needs bad? But okay. And like I love Squiller. You know that. I love that character. He and his propaganda like Chumeshwari in my language. Lovely. How he like give misinformation in that sense that like people like, oh, this guy is very good. He whatever he's saying is right. Like he finalize the words of that Napoleon. Like Napoleon says, this is daytime. Even if it's night time, Squiller will say these words like words that will make people think, yeah, it's night time.
Convince
And the
them.
check, they're like, yeah, convince them. And like key theme in this chapter that scapegoating. When Napoleon finds out that his plan is not going to work now, so he uses Snowball as a scapegoat. Scapegoat, like he blames Snowball to collapse of that windmill. Despite these obvious signs that natural forces were responsible, but this like, reflects a classical strategy of dictatorship or dictators, creating an external enemy to distract the people. And our poor boxer, that character I represent, like I love to represent. I will work harder. He always think that working harder will make problem easy or will make his life good, but no,
Yeah,
he don't
not
know
not
the real source of
yeah,
his suffering.
correct.
Yeah,
Not when
he
this.
doesn't know that.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes,
sir. Yeah, not when the
no, no,
system is not a fair one. See, if you work
yeah,
harder,
yeah,
life will. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, sir.
yeah. Life will become easy, but he don't know now what is the reason of his suffering, the real reason behind it, and like or what I tell my student from this chapter that like most powerful takeaway from this chapter is that power does not limit itself. It constantly seeks more control, more power, rewriting history and justifying like oppressive along the way. They create these things, these rules, these new rules. They change history, they change rule, so they can benefit that. So that really like they will ultimately they will fulfill their what we say lusts,
Yeah,
desire.
yeah.
Yeah,
Basically, they'll only do what's good for them. Bottom line.
yeah. And in Hindi, if I say like I give my student this last line that आपको देखना पड़ेगा कि आपके आसपास ऐसा तो नहीं हो रहा.
Correct.
In English, I could say like, are we to not like falling into this trap? You need to see that.
You need to be aware of your surroundings, basically.
Yeah, you need to aware of this our surrounding. That
Yeah,
are you not boxer or
yeah.
you should not be boxer in this situation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, beautifully
So
analyzed. Very good.
love this
Yeah,
chapter.
yeah. Sir, Sikshardin garu, you are next.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Yeah, more or less, other panel members have uh, completed the analysis more or less. What I found interesting in this chapter is that the use of squealer. I found very interesting how manipulative he was, and he was traveling uh, he was traveling in between things and convincing people to his interest, which satisfies his master. So that was very, I mean, it is very, uh, how can I say, very similar to almost every situation at every point of time in the history, I guess. Uh, so, so, yeah, what Daoji said, if Napoleon says it is night in the middle of the day, and how Squealer convinces very conveniently also, all the people that it is night. Uh, so that was very interesting. And what I wanted to say, more thing.
No, these the squirrel, na.
Squealer,
There
yeah.
is a French philosopher who said that those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. You know, and the
Yeah,
squirrel is
So,
an
absolutely.
Lawyer Garu,
example
can you
of that.
believe it? Can you believe that statement?
Yes.
Lawyer Garu
Yes, I
just put a
completely,
community post
I
exactly
completely
2 days ago,
agree.
same thing.
Where? Where?
So in Manavahini, there is a channel called Manavahini. Okay.
Okay,
So in the
I'm not
community
in that.
post, you are not. Let me give you a link, sir. I'll give you a link right now. And
Okay.
there we do Telugu programs. But
Oh, thank God I'm not in that. Otherwise, this was episode said, "Yeah, you copied my thing." Thank God. Thank God.
yeah, but
Oh, let me use another thing. Okay, 1 minute.
yeah,
Uh,
go ahead, sir.
like the most like the power tends to corrupt, and and absolute power corrupts absolutely,
Absolutely
by
correct.
Lord Acton.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
need
Because
another
the
quote
privilege,
also.
the privilege of having power is, the people have to listen to you, even though it is right or wrong, it doesn't matter. They don't want to think,
Yes,
the common people, but the powerful person makes these things happen, makes the other people
yes.
to believe him as a powerful. That's the
Hmm.
idea.
Yeah.
So is this
You know,
Voltaire
Yeah.
who is being
in
paraphrased, or
in this,
Correct. Walter, sir.
once time I gave my students to write something about this chapter, and one of them, I have his copy, like the copy of that writing. He wrote in that, the last para was, the penalty good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men, by Plato. I love this line, because it it represent this chapter perfectly. Because boxer is a good guy, and other animals, like I believe they are good, but because they are not do not have knowledge or language, or we can see this in this chapter, that they were not able to read the commandments. So if you're not in public affairs, then evil men will rule you, definitely.
Yeah. Well put, sir. Well put. Well put.
And today I am sounding like Vishwa.
No, sir. No, no. Please, yeah, you
uh,
know who I am, right? I already ran away from the farm and I'm living elsewhere. So I've already given
yeah.
given up.
And I am boxer, so I will work harder.
Hmm.
Sir, yeah, I remembered what I wanted to. I wanted to draw a parallel actually, sir. What Squealer said and what's happening in this day's propaganda, the leftist propaganda, to be more specific, is So the squealer says all the absurd things about not uh, uh, not following the commandments and convincing them that they are following the commandments. And finally, one thing he shows as uh, the grave danger that would come if they don't fall into the place in which they were supposed to be actually in which they were put actually is if you don't follow these rules, Mr. Jones will come back. So if we draw that very parallel, if you don't be liberal or if you don't be secular, Manusmriti will come back.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
yeah,
Correct.
Manusmriti will come back, and
Same
the
goes
Brahmanical
with that right.
Brahmanical
Yeah,
patriarchy will come back,
and same goes with the
and
right also.
Yeah,
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 absolutely. Yeah,
same goes with right
absolutely.
absolutely,
also. They also like ki, if you don't be with us, these will rule.
Yeah, yeah,
These people will rule.
yeah,
I hate this phrase. These people. If you like, I hope you will understand this phrase. These people. I hate this phrase.
yeah. Raji, your internet connection probably losing you a little bit there. But absolutely, the points you are making are absolutely valid, you know. And I mean, you just have to be aware, as Dawji said, that whether it is the left or the right, are you falling prey to propaganda, basically, right? In fact, there are a lot of
yeah.
people that currently think even the posturing wise, the so called right wing dispensation has not done enough to improve or has not fulfilled their promise, right?
Yeah,
That's why
people
a
are
lot.
there, sir. They still believe America sent a person to moon, and they have actually landed and taken that videos.
Right, right.
Exactly, sir.
That's the strength of propaganda.
Yeah. Well, apart from that, more importantly, in the Indian context, a lot of people think the current government has not done enough in the last 10 years, right? Because exactly you know, before power and after power, there is a difference what do you call, in stance almost, right? Words are one thing, actions are not reflecting that. So it's up to the
I
people to mold
am
that
actually one of those
people.
people.
Yeah.
And in the domestic front, what I'm talking about in the domestic front, not in the international arena. International arena, they have been excellent.
Yeah.
So, Vishwagaru,
Sir, please.
you have pointed to the allegory in the private chat. Do you want to
Yeah.
elaborate on that, sir? So,
Yeah.
before we do that, there is
Yeah.
one Soviet joke which I wanted to share.
Yeah. Yeah. Please go ahead.
So, like Communist Party or CCP, as they call it, uh, they used to rule over USSR. So, whenever a new successor was arranged, I think this was a joke which was on Brezhnev, Khrushchev, and others.
Mhm.
So, the premier used to hand over three envelopes to the successor. So, and they used to pass on a message saying that open this when you are in dire trouble.
Yeah. Correct.
So, you remember that one?
Yeah. 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 I remember that joke. I think it came up in one of our previous sessions. Basically, there are
Oh,
three letters, right? So the first letter says blame it on the previous president. And if you are in dire trouble again, blame it on the economy. That's what they say in America. Probably blame it on somebody else in the communist dispensation. And then finally, the third thing in America, they say find a new job. This is CEO to CEO, right?
yeah.
So,
Find a new successor and
Hmm.
hand over.
You
and
know,
then pack up.
I
Yeah.
have also I also have one joke, but I don't think so. Like I will convey it properly. But
Yeah.
be with me, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Please.
joke is about this book, okay? So a Soviet citizen goes to the library and asks for Animal Farm. Then the librarian whispers, "We don't keep books with updated editions every month." You didn't get it? So the joke is that Napoleon altering the commandments na every month.
Right. Exactly.
That's why we don't keep books with updated edition every month. I knew that you wouldn't get it, but yeah, my joke quality is bad.
No, no, it's all good. It's
But
all good.
what's
Dawji, if
happening
you
in
want
India, I
to,
think going with joke is
Dawji,
not good.
no. Dawji, if you want to say it, please tell in Hindi also.
Yeah, yeah.
If
Hindi
you
also is
are,
fine. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay,
yeah,
so
regarding the just quick
Soviet
point, and then I'll give to you. Yeah, go ahead.
no, so Soviet guy जाता है लाइब्रेरी और बोलता है मुझे वो एनिमल फार्म की बुक देना। तो एनिमल फार्म वो जो लाइब्रेरियन होता है वो कहता है भैया यार, हर महीने हम नई बुक नहीं ला सकते ना। तो ऐसे उसमें वो जोक
अच्छा
जोक सेम
अच्छा
ही है बट द जोक इज सेम बट you would like okay, no problem.
Yeah, yeah.
I have many jokes about this book, I have
No, you should continue
many
to
jokes.
keep giving slowly, one session at a time. We should explore more of your jokes.
But one joke is like, what's the difference between capitalism and communism?
Yeah, go ahead.
In capitalism, man exploits man. In communism, it's the other way around.
Mm,
But it's always Trotsky's fault.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
always
yeah.
like Snowball's fault.
Correct. And exploitation is constant.
Yeah, that is constant. That
Yeah,
you can't change.
yeah. So Swarup Gare has given us some information about this person named Stakhanov, basically, right? Who I believe was
Yeah,
allegorized. Yeah,
boxer,
boxer, exactly. So
boxer.
he was representative of this very hardworking laborer that mined 227 tons of coal in a single shift. So I believe his
Oh my
example was
God.
held up in newspapers and posters as a model for others to follow. Work harder.
I will work harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Napoleon is always right.
Yeah, exactly. So audience can find out more of this information if they go to Wikipedia about this gentleman named Stakhanov, Andrei Stakhanov or Sergei Stakhanov or something like that. Basically, you know, Alexei. There you go. So apparently, people are more familiar with these hardworking laborers than I am. Yeah, yes,
Sir,
sir.
I wonder what a Mr. Wimper is.
Yeah, so the guy who is doing the business with the animal farm.
Yeah,
So I believe it represents the other countries, capitalistic countries that benefit from doing business with these communist countries. That is one
okay.
representation, right? But there could be more. There could be actually one person or somebody who actually benefited significantly from doing business with the erstwhile communist regime of USSR, basically.
That lawyer, na?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That what's his name, Mr.
Mm. Mr. Wimper.
He seems to be more of a capitalist kind of a person.
Exactly. That's the point.
Exactly, sir.
Yeah, yeah, that's the point.
But the controversy is here, communist are against with the capitalists, but still they are, working together. It's the beauty.
The Hunt movie references to Annual Farm, and there's a pig in it too. Yeah, too many references, sir. This is like a classic in the Western Hemisphere, and obviously, a lot more people know who are into this, the socio-political discourse of various countries, right? And the two competing ideologies or whatever. So I'm also going to put the community link to Daji. You were referring to that Voltaire quote, right? So this is the community link where you can go and see some of the quotes that Lawyer Garu is
Mm.
putting in. Yeah. Uh,
I also have some quotes.
So,
I will. And my
mm,
pages also.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, sir. Shardul, sir.
Sir, what about the four piglets that were timidly raising voice against Napoleon?
So it
Yeah.
represents the dissent within the party, I guess, basically. So there are some people, but they are not powerful enough to command anything. It's just a little bit of noise
Okay.
that is generated. Yeah, the same kind, but they see the change that is happening. Right.
Hmm.
So he's talking about Korean film The Hunt. I see. So for me, I mean, just on this episode, right, the one thing that caught my attention was Squealer questioning the reality of the animals, right?
Yeah.
So the animals felt very uneasy because they thought there were some commandments made, and then those commandments were
Hmm.
being changed. Commandment is something that you cannot change. That's why they felt uneasy, basically, right? We should not do business with human beings, all that kind of stuff, right? So
Exactly, sir.
not too long ago, in fact, this week, there was a moment where my reality was questioned, right? Although in a little bit of a frivolous manner, right? So for me, when Squealer started questioning the reality of the animals, I felt I laughed again, saying that look, when you get to these kinds of stereotypical, when people tend to, when they try to fit you into stereotypes, they start questioning your reality also sometimes. You know, are you sure you didn't do this? Are you sure you didn't do that? It's like, well, I'm pretty sure. I remember what I did. It's just that there may not be a record of it, right? But I remember.
Correct, sir. Correct.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's my summary for this wonderful chapter, basically.
Hmm. And like I want to give summary.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
As a summary, I would say like when citizens fail to hold their leader accountable, now they lose their freedom. Absolutely. So you need to hold your leaders accountable every time, every place.
Sir, you are 100% correct. Actually, right now in Andhra politics, also similar discussions were happening with Lawyer Garu and in others at certain other forums where politics are heavily discussed. Yeah.
Hmm.
Sorry. Yeah.
Like I don't want to change the topic, but in my city, I will give you the name of my city. I already gave you, but that yesterday there was a thing. Okay, so PM is here today. Today PM was here, and before that, policeman beat a normal guy, normal shopkeeper. The reason is that like foolish. The reason is like very foolish. And what happened, because PM was coming, so they immediately suspended officers, but the officer who were suspended were not the like officers who was beating that person. So those guys who were suspended, they are like 60, one is 55 years old, and I'm like, wow, very nice.
No
So these,
accountability, basically. Okay.
yeah.
Sir, Swaroop, sir, you were going to say something.
So there are like this book in general are very. I wanted to paraphrase my thoughts. This has been my favorite book since quite some time, or one of my favorite books. Not because the story is written in a very wonderful way, but it makes you reflect on your contemporary world. It highlights some of the shortcomings of what you see in press, print media at some point of time, and maybe the digital media nowadays. The I can't put it in words. You have to experience some of the nuances, the way the words are twisted. Like you spoke about squealer or the propaganda challenge channels which are there. Those are more relevant nowadays. Earlier, it was state owned, so any dissent was spread through. underground channels. Like if someone was advocating Naxalism, I don't know how many of the folks are aware of the Naxal ideology beyond India, but that's a revolutionary way, or they call them affiliated to Marxist ideology, where they wanted to bring in revolution via violent means. And there were educated people who fell for that. They genuinely believed that the only way to bring out change was to take up arms, denounce the existing democratic process, and start a revolution. They forgot, or it never dawned to them that they are the prey to the preachings. So, whatever they were trying to convey or create, and whatever they were doing, are not very different. So, and when I was hearing about some of the things which Vishwagaru was talking of and Shravan Garu was narrating about contemporary politics, I think that's true in every sense. Everyone, there are some people who fall for a propaganda or ideology, and some of them choose to take a side, and they fail to question it when they see certain things going uh, south. So I think someone asked, what does a four peaks represent?
Correct, sir.
So if I remember vaguely, like
Definitely.
every dictator, once they take up reign, right? In the initial days, they try to be good, or they appear to be people centric, but within after their honeymoon period has passed away, they resolve to violent means to purge away purge the opposition. It happened with Hitler. It happened with Stalin, and uh, maybe even Lenin was accused of doing the same.
Right.
Sir, it is
So I
also
think
happening right now in
Yes.
CCP with,
Chinese Communist Party. Right,
yeah,
sir. I was
the,
also using CCP. I think that for the Soviet Party, it is CPSU or something.
Right.
I Yeah, the Chinese Communist Party does that.
absolutely, sir.
For India, it is.
The- For democracies, it's a bit more nuanced. So they don't get enough time to completely demolish the previous uh, propaganda. So the narrative and counter narrative, both of them coexist. Nowadays, because of the way social media has been democratized, it's far more easier for people to raise objections or questions, but you can definitely see the censorship process in play. It's not through official channels, but you see comment sections getting completely biased or one-sided.
Correct.
There is no longer a middle way. Ideally, I wish people were a bit more wise and welcome pessimists
Hmm.
in a positive note. Uh,
In a way, such thing it could be resulting into a cancel culture as well. This kind of actions.
Yeah, it is. It's an outcome. Yep.
yeah,
Sir, Vatsalya,
self-imposed censorship and whatnot.
yeah, exactly. Very strong-handed way of dealing with things. Vatsalya, welcome to the panel, sir.
Hi, sir.
Hello,
Hi, everyone.
Vatsalya.
Yeah,
And
good.
Hi.
sir, I just wanted to say one thing, sir, because now I'm in understanding mode actually. So I couldn't give any opinions or something like that. So I heard one. It may be a fiction story, but I heard this. Once Bose and Stalin got met. I mean, those both have a meeting, and Stalin asks about the situation of India at particular time. So he says, I mean, the Mr. Bose says, one month's revolution is other month's terrorism అని he mentioned over there. So
Correct.
is it the
One
correct
man's
way?
revolutionary is another man's. Correct. You are absolutely correct. It is there.
Yeah. So he mentioned with Stalin, and for that reference, he got a standard ovation for around 3-4 minutes. I hope so. So it may be a fictional story, but compared to Stalin, I mean, he's devoted to which ism, sir? Actually, Mr. Stalin. It's my question actually.
Communism.
Probably communism, but when he was in a meeting with Mr. Bose, he was saying, "I'm totally diverted into this capitalism." So how could that even be possible? Being in communism, how could you be a capitalist? That's my $1 million question actually.
Yeah. Probably
Yeah,
we'll.
sir.
Yeah.
I think for this question, Shravan sir should answer, sir. I
Yeah.
have also same
Or maybe we can
question.
even discuss a little bit more later and come back to answer
Yeah.
this next
Okay.
week,
Okay.
Yeah,
because
but
we
Sure,
need
sir.
to
better, sir,
do a
because
little bit
it's
more
a
research. Yeah.
literally it's a $1 million question. How
Yeah. Yeah.
could
Yeah.
two isms can get mixed at a point which has other utilizations and
Point
another
of
has
view.
something different? Yeah,
Correct.
correct.
So,
POV.
yeah. So if you look at it, so the quick answer is, if you look at China right now, from
Mhm.
a political standpoint, it's still communist, but from an economic standpoint, it is becoming very capitalistic,
Maybe
right?
True,
possibilities
sir.
are
True.
very yes. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So at some point in time, a country can have a mixture of various isms in some
Mhm.
kind of a, like a biryani style governance,
Correct.
depending
Yeah.
upon the need and what people are willing to take, right? And the need of the hour, basically, right? If you're too rigid, you will be eliminated. Like, for example, is North Korea, right? I'm not saying
Mm.
they'll get eliminated, but all I'm saying is they are in a different time zone altogether, in a time warp, right?
There is a different universe actually.
Uh, but if you want to be like, for example, if you want to lead the world economically or whatever, you will have to bend your ways. So politically, you can be in one dispensation or oriented one way, whereas economically, you could be oriented in a different way. That is my answer to that. But we'll discuss more about this. Sir,
All right, sir.
yeah, Shravan, sir, any comments? Final comments?
In the meantime, I would like to add something.
Please,
So,
please go
after
ahead, sir.
India gained independence, there was a variant of Nehruvian socialism which actually hampered India's growth. It was also modeled on Gandhi's view of how Swadeshi Gram Swaraj should sustain. They were staunchly reluctant on accepting external aid. Uh, it was all about self-sustenance and all. So they thought that,
Protectionism.
mm, yeah,
Yeah.
protectionism is a side effect of that. They saw villages or India as a self-sustaining economy,
Yeah.
and they felt that we would not need external impetus to grow. And in fact, they went the protectionism or the barriers which were created. In fact, they do exist even now. So when Mr. Prime Minister Modi visited US, that was one of the concerns which was shared. Do we really need a protectionistic society, especially when it's like we are trying to double dip, trying to get the best of both worlds? You don't want others to come in and take your money, but you would still want to have an exposure to global markets and whatnot. Uh,
True.
the
True, sir.
extreme hard truth is, until late 1980s, the shadow of these socialistic parties' views hung over Indian economy. It was very difficult for youth to be employed. It was harder for industrialists to set up or grow economically, because anything which was beyond certain amount was taxed brutally. So the tax rates in certain cases were almost 100%. So I
Yeah,
I can't imagine how someone was allowed to uh, literally gaslight a growing economy or someone who is aspirational in nature. Imagine that happening today. Uh, it's like
yeah, true, sir.
unpardonable, uncondonable. Yeah.
Yeah, true, sir. I don't understand either how it all happened. I couldn't even start to imagine actually. And most most of all, there were four wars that had been fought, sir. That is also very disturbing. Yeah, sir, Shravan sir, Sarup sir, please continue your side.
No, I don't have much to add, and I wanted to keep it short. If there are others, or if there are any comments to be read, we can talk about
Yeah,
those.
I'm wondering if Shravan sir is there or not to add anything. Tiger Garu, would you highlight the comments? Shall we read them? I think both of them are a
I think
bit
Vishwa has
busy.
gone to sleep.
No, no, no,
Vishwa
no.
garu
We'll
won't.
be back.
I
We'll be
think
back.
Shravan garu might
Yeah,
have stepped.
Siksha, I have highlighted a couple of things you
Yeah,
can.
okay. Time out is saying appeal to fear is what happened in Dowji's hometown and in the farm town. Question mark. Dowji,
Hmm.
आप बोलिए.
I need to understand what he means with by that. I didn't get it.
Means the actual person who beat that shopkeeper was
Hmm.
uh, I mean, yeah, was not suspended and the other policemen were suspended, right?
Yes.
That was way
Yeah,
back. That is, yeah,
that is what he is asking.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Because the policemen
Why?
were
Yeah,
like,
why did it happen? Is it is or what he is asking?
You know what I understood because of that. Sorry to Dauchi, I just have a word to say here. Sorry to cut off. Uh, the people has to think in a way like, yeah, government is looking into these kind of issues and responding it and punishing the who did that mistake. But actually, it was not the actual scene because even the people like with the 60 years or
yes.
55 years is that nothing to lose for them. Even though they suspend them, it doesn't matter because they're at the edge of retirement, right? But not the actual things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the problem is that they have the video also, like CCTV video and all the things, and mobile phone videos also. But they are like, no, no, these were not there. You can see their faces and everything, but no, they are not. Or they need, like, people need action. Like, no, people didn't, but they need to do action because uh, Modi ji is coming, because it goes bad publicity. Like, even PM is coming and this is happening like that. So that's why they need to take action, but they didn't want to blame their officers. So they were like, no, no, these officers were not there. These officers were there. So
Yeah,
suspend
yeah.
these guys because they are like going to retire in 1 or 2 years, 5 years. So no problem.
There is an
Yes.
anecdote which I would like to share. So this is from
Yeah, please.
ex-chief minister Mr. Rajshekar Reddy's era. So there is an interview by from his chief secretary on YouTube, where he narrates a similar incident. So during Rajshekar Reddy's reign, he was supposed to travel from Hyderabad to Vijayawada for some activity or some program. There is a river called Krishna River which flows close by, close to Vijayawada, and there was a mishap where a ferry tilted, and there were certain casualties. So the chief minister got to know, and he asked the chief secretary to take a prompt action. Essentially, he wanted the collector, who is the administrative officer, and the chief of police, who was responsible for that region, to be dismissed. And his caveat, or the reason which he gave, was the media in Vijayawada was very much against Mr. Rajshekar Reddy, and he was afraid that they would use it as a attacking argument, highlighting the incompetence of his governance. So he wanted to preempt them by dismissing or
The
performing
district collector.
an
Yeah.
appeasing act to soothe the journalists over there. Like, he just wanted to shut their mouth. Now, when the chief secretary raised his objection, saying that, but see, these guys have been struggling day in and day out to set up the venue and program. It's no way that they would manage or supervise those. But he was pretty much adamant. So I think that happens at every level, even in your organizations. You would run into managers who try to stick a label on someone's back for a failure. So that's where you would find it differentiating quality. Leaders differ from managers.
100%.
Leaders own up issues, whereas managers try to stick issues
Yeah.
or avoid issues, so that they're yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
Vishwagaru.
Yeah, 100%, sir. And I cannot emphasize how nice the conversation and the discussion is. So many experienced people on the panel, and they're giving very good perspectives. So the difference between a leader and a manager, we'll do a session on that as well, sir. It's one of my favorite topics, actually. Right? So long time back, there was this one article called Level 5 Leadership. Okay, I'll just put it in the chat, the name. You can go search. I'm sure it's available on leadership. The triumph of humility and fierce resolve. That's what it is called. So you can look it up, and then it goes into the details of various levels of leadership and what's the difference between managers and leaders, that kind of stuff. So yeah, you know, as you get more and more experience, you will come across all kinds of people who have been put in leadership positions and they're not really ready for it. Some people are able to grow into it, but some people basically drag down the aura of that particular position with their very small thinking. Yeah, that's it, sir. I think we are at a good breaking point.
Yeah, yes.
Today's session is so good. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a wonderful discussion, good chapter. So we'll close now. Then Daoji is also back, so we'll also let him be here for the closing. Daoji, we are going to close the session. Thank you very much for joining. We appreciate your
Eh?
viewpoints. Yeah.
Too soon? And every time I join, na, like my network is like, no, no, you can't join. You should not join. You will open your mouth and you will say bad things
Yeah.
only. You should
Yeah.
not
It must
join.
be. It must be Snowball's conspiracy, Daoji. So.
Yeah, it must be. And I think
So.
it's Napoleon. or Vishwa disguised as Napoleon.
Exactly.
This is true.
Mm. So, Swarup Garu, thank you very much for joining and weighing in with your perspective. Similarly, Sikshanthan
And
Garu, yeah.
I want to make last point.
Yeah, yeah, please do. And then Black Tiger Garu as well as Lawyer Garu, thank you very much. We'll give the floor to Davaji to make the closing comment. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yes, and I'm loving this series. Okay, chapter 1 to this chapter 6. I'm looking forward to the next chapters. And as boxer, I will say again, I will work harder. I will work harder.
Okay.
Under Napoleon. Got it?
Yeah.
Daoji, you are always missing one more slogan. Boxer says, Napoleon is always right.
Yeah, Napoleon is always right. No doubt in it.
Absolutely.
40, yeah, 40 to be.
Napoleon and Squirrel, whatever they say,
Squiller,
they are
Squiller.
always
Killer,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Squirrel, sorry.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
my moose is already gone, so I am alone. I am bachelor. Anybody interested? Please come in.
That's a warm welcome.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.